Okay, so we're starting with the painting that you actually did back at lesson 5.
Yeah, so we did the life drawing, life painting of this nursery, and I added a pig in under overcast lighting, and that's kind of nondescript. And I want to see what we can do, just changing the lighting of it to achieve some feelings.
Yeah, it's kind of, is sad, like pig sitting in on an overcast day out in an outdoor cafe. What's something we could do to make it actually feel like kind of sweet and pleasant?
Yeah, so what if we just kind of say, okay, let's break the cloud and then just have a light come through, him being lit under the sun, just how does that look like? Let's try it out. Here, this is, I'm actually painting the sky fill light first, and then adding sunlight using adjustment layers.
And it looks like you stuck it on overlay?
Yeah, so the overlay for sunlight, and the sky fill light, I used the normal layer. The key, we talked about this before, but the key is always the light never goes darker, so it has to get lighter. Otherwise it'll look like it's painted or it's tinted or something. And I lit pig like this, and then I'm lighting the environment like this. Now the table is
using the adjustment layers.
Yeah, the key is to use the same exact adjustment layer that I use for pig. And if I have to adjust certain things because of the local colors, I do it. But oftentimes I can just use the layer that I used before, as if the adjustment layer is the light.
Yep. That's great. So you did the sky fill light, which is the blue light that is coming from the sky. That's a diffuse light that's kind of blanketing everything. And that you straight up painted onto the pig. And then you used an adjustment layer to do the warm light, sunlight coming in. What are you doing now?
Yeah, so now because we're looking towards the light, there's, heavier sort of light bloom and atmosphere influence. You're looking into it. So I have this atmosphere layer, which is great. We talked about this in lecture 7. But the atmosphere simplifies the background, so the character pops out a little bit better. But again, it's this kind of nice sort of bright lighting effect. And I want to show another sort of pleasant or uplifting feel by throwing different kind of sunlight. The same sunlight, but I'm actually throwing different lighting. It's very easy to shift around. I just took out the rim light from the previous one and just started painting, dappled lights and see what it looks like.
And that's great because it's not, you see trees all around, but you have a lot of freedom to kind of place these little bits of light all over. The placement is kind of somewhat arbitrary, right?
Yeah, the only thing I always think about when I'm doing a dappled light is that, I would avoid light hitting on the important sort of areas of facial expressions. You want to make sure when it's animated it doesn't get in the way of the read of the expressions. So oftentimes it's outside of eyes and cheeks and mouth and stuff like that. But you all of a sudden get this really brightly lit feel, even though the light is only hitting in certain areas, and it's sunny, uplifting, but different from the previous version. It's much more intimate. It feels like it's closed in, and
you move the light around. You brought it around to the front.
Totally.
It's just being filtered through the leaves. What about keeping that feeling but moving it into nighttime?
Yeah, I'll just do a kind of a simple nighttime, especially since we did the uplifting ones, and maybe I'll do not so uplifting,
Oh, okay.
like putting him in the light. the night lighting can do so many different things. We could do a bright moonlight, but in this case, I'm just going to keep everything not too bright. I have this moonlight from screen left hitting him, but not super strong, because I had this idea that maybe I can have this candle light that's becoming the dominant light source.
So what are you doing there? That's a bit of a glow.
Yeah, just the glow, hitting it, because it's so dark that the glow becomes more significant. I'm just kind of hitting the light pretty strong around the light source. But the candlelight, what's really unique about candlelight is that it falls off very quickly. So by the time it hits the pig, it's not as strong. So I wanted to play this kind of pretty dark and soft. And then if anything, like one of his eyes catches the highlight, but overall I wanted to see if I could create this feeling where people are like, why is he sitting in the middle of the night alone? In a way, it's not an uplift, it's a different kind of feeling.
Yeah This pig has been through everything in this little cafe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then just adding a slight...
Is that an overall kind of?
Yeah, just overall tint. I wanted to kind of give a slight tint of a blue and just a slight haze of moonlight, but very slight.
Mm-hmm.
So now, talk about the sad or, feelings not so uplifting. I want to do even more. I want to push it more. So instead of night lighting, I want to see during the daytime, but what if the weather is just dark, maybe heavy cloud. See if we can just create this. It's almost like overcast, the first, the way I started in the beginning. But even compared to that, like, it's much darker, like almost like a stormy clouds coming.
And are you directly painting on top of all this?
This is definitely adjustment layers. I'm doing adjustment layers, and now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just start kind of, throwing some rains on him to make it even sadder. Similar to the one that you had in the demo for atmosphere, but just kind of showing him. He's sitting. He's being, the rain's hitting on top of his head. That's just sad.
That is sad.
And he doesn't even seem to be bothered by it. Like, I'm kind of doing this kind of wet drips over him too. The drips. So you kind of get the completely different kind of feeling. Based
horrible.
On using the light and the effects, and just like yours, I'm painting the reflection.
Yes, very important part.
So it feels wet.
Yeah, painting wet surfaces.
And I thought it'd be kind of cool to have that MacBook glow is the brightest spot, just to make, it just kind of creates this significance of, everything is dark except for that MacBook.
We did not get paid for that. That is not placement.
So the lastly, like, you would think I did the sunny, sunlight for kind of uplifting, and then 2 dark scenes for sad. I want to show, like, if we can achieve some sort of sunlight and yet not uplifting. I want to see like high noon and then it's overexposed, and see like how uncomfortable can we get just pushing the sunlight. It is definitely sunlight,
because it's an obvious I mean, I think a lot of us would think first like, we're going to do a scene that's not uplifting, let's go dark with it. But you're saying actually that you're going to try something in daylight to try to achieve that same feeling. Oftentimes like a high noon is an interesting lighting. I used in the past for Toy Story 3 and Monsters University 2. Almost like it makes you look like you're completely exposed and you don't have a long shadow. Like, just really everything starts to flatten out. And oftentimes that's not desirable. Like in the real beauty lighting, you don't want to do sort of high angled straight down lighting,
but you almost use that as an advantage to create something uncomfortable. And I wanted to see if I can just bring this light, blast the sort of high noon hot lighting over him to create this totally different feeling from this beautiful dappled, or the morning lighting that I had in the earlier demo, and just kind of bringing the f-stop so that it's completely over exaggerated overexposure, and then just bring the strong bounce light, and there's a bit of like a filtered look that I'm kind of playing with too, like just kind of almost like hot Western films. They try to do that to create this hotness, dryness and hotness. So I wanted to kind of show that the sunlight can also create something uncomfortable and not necessarily uplifting.
Yeah, that's great, because the composition stayed throughout. Expressions didn't change, but you did feel kind of a change in story as you move through different lighting situations. That's great. What's next?
All right, let's take a look.